Hey everyone, it's Sleepy Reader. This time I'm here with a comic book haul, some back issues that I hunted up over the past few months, and I think mostly from sales that happened a while ago. And so, as always, this is your old fashioned haul. I'm just a run collector. I like to look for comic books I like. There's nothing key or special or grails or what have you here, except that I love these comics. Um, so for starters, I got at some sale recently, I got a whole bunch of Fantastic Four from what I think of as the Rich Buckler era. I think Rich Buckler followed John Buscema on the Fantastic Four, who followed Jack Kirby. And Buckler eventually developed a very strong Jack Kirby imitation style. I don't think he was. This is number 43. I'm not sure when his first issue of Fantastic Four was, but this is close. And it's got hints of Kirby in it, of course, but it's as much Buscema or a little bit of Neal Adams or what have you, I think, when he first started. But I always found him exciting more than, I liked the quality of his pastiche of Jack Kirby artwork, but I also always liked his layouts and his dynamicism. He was a very good storyteller, so I always felt like Rich Buckler got the raw end of the deal in the way people judge him and his work on the Fantastic Four. And it might be because it was the very first Fantastic Four that I read regularly. I think my very first Fantastic Four was a Marvel's Greatest Comics reprint issue featuring two issues from the first Inhuman story, and that was awesome. But then after that, I jumped on, as a kid, the Fantastic Four, written by Jerry Conway, I believe, and Jerry Conway, and drawn by Rich Buckler. And it was the Rich Buckler art that really made it for me as a kid. And obviously, I was geeking out on a lot of Jack Kirby cliches that Rich Buckler was putting in. But there was still, to me, and still when I look, these are all out of the bags because last night I was looking through them all. Still, to me, captures something special, whether he's the best imitator of, actually that looks like a John Buscema drawing to me. But anyway, whether he was the best imitator of artists before him or added something extra special, I'm not sure. But I still really enjoy the Rich Buckler art. So that was first one was number 143. This is number 144. There's this exciting sequence where Fantastic Four have to invade Latveria. I can't remember why, but there's also this demon creature, which I think was created by Doctor Doom. I have to actually reread these. Created by Doctor Doom, but then joined on the side of the Fantastic Four, if I remember correctly, because he's out to get Doctor Doom. So I thought these were really, really great issues in my memory as a kid. And then it followed on with a sequence where Reed and Sue separate and are probably going to get divorced. And Sue is going to marry the Submariner. And a whole bunch of wacky hijinks ensues. By issue 48, it's definitely 100% sort of Kirby pastiche. But still, there's something very lively and active about it. It's not like a dead piece of tracing or something. There's 149 where they directly confront the Submariner. There's Sue and Subby battling against the Fantastic Four. I wonder if Jerry Conway was going through a breakup or a divorce at the time, now that I think about it as an adult. You can see some layouts here that Kirby probably would not have done, even though it's drawn in a Kirby style. And then the next issue I got, so that was, I guess I missed 150, or maybe that's the one that is a reprint that I decided not to pick up. But then we move on to a storyline with Machismo and Thundra from two different dimensions. One where all the women rule, and one where the men rule and the women are slaves. Boy, there's a lot of ads in these comics. I read later that Jim Shooter discovered they were losing money by putting in so many ads. I'm not sure how that works, but maybe it costs more money to print the ads than they were receiving from the ads. So anyway, at the time when I was, a 12-year-old boy, this battle of the sexes seemed very interesting to me. It probably will seem very silly to me now. And also a big kudos should be put out in all of these issues because they are inked by Joe Sinnott, and he added a lot. And there are some issues that aren't inked by Joe Sinnott, and the look is very different. For instance, this one, inked by Jim Mooney, a very good inker, but maybe not quite right for Rich Buckler, or anyway, changes the style a lot. I don't know if I can say if he's wrong or right, but it's kind of actually a noticeable change in the tone and style and mood of the story when you take Joe Sinnott out of the equation. Still very exciting stuff, just lots of action. I did try to reread some of these a few years ago, and I did find the Jerry Conway script not up to what I had hoped it would be. Here's 153. So this saga of two different dimensions goes on for at least 3 issues, which makes it pretty epic. Here Joe Sinnott is back. It's not as good as Kirby. I mean, I totally know that. But I still have a very warm place in my heart for Rich Buckler Fantastic Four. So eventually I think the two universes merge, and men and women learn to come in harmony, or at least to kiss a lot or something. Maybe I flashed that too quickly, as this is representing the two worlds merging as the characters kiss. Right here. 154. What's in 154 was a fill-in issue. So I kind of wish I hadn't bought it. It doesn't have Rich Buckler. It has a little framing story by Len Wein and Bob Brown. I do like the art of Bob Brown, but I don't know if he's well suited for the Fantastic Four. And then it quickly moves into a Dick Ayers drawn, Stan Lee written story. I suppose it's probably worth reading. I think it's not a Fantastic Four story. It's a Thing and Human Torch story. I gotta say, juxtaposed with the more modern, juxtaposed with the 70s artists, the Dick Ayers art looked very stiff. Let's see. And the next issue I have is 160, which I think was another dimension hopping story. It might now be, yes, now it's written by Roy Thomas. And personally, I've always liked Roy Thomas scripts a lot, and not been that big of a fan of Jerry Conway's, or at least a lot of the Jerry Conways that I encountered as a kid, which seemed pretty hacked out. And I feel like Roy Thomas put more thought and intellect, if you will, in terms of comics into his work. At least for things like Fantastic Four and Conan and what have you. But I was, particularly then, I think maybe we're more burnt out on it now, but I was a big sucker for these interdimensional types of stories. So then in 162, so I don't have 161, I'll have to look for that. 161, I think we meet a Thing from two different universes. And the story's gotten complicated, so we need a graph to show us about how the 3 different Earths that are involved work out. 165, we're skipping ahead. I don't know if this is actually a Rich Buckler issue. No, I bought it because it's a George Perez issue. The guest penciler, George Perez. I think still early in George Perez's career. This would be 1975. I know he originally was an assistant to Rich Buckler, so I don't know if there's a connection here or if he'd already sort of moved out on his own by the time. Perez also was notable. I mean, there was a bit of a Kirby Buscema kind of look to his penciling at this point, but I remember noticing right away that he did interesting layouts, in terms of the panels and such. So I remember immediately taking a liking to him. Let's see if I can find a better example. But anyway, there's a nice intensity here. I assume it's inked by Joe Sinnott, so that also gives it. Yep, Joe Sinnott embellisher. So yeah, here's some of those different kind of George Perez panels. His paneling's fairly restrained here. Got much wilder in the Man Wolf stories he did, but still, you also get the sense of a person putting a lot of storytelling into the story by using lots of panels and showing us a lot of what's going on. So those are the 70s Fantastic Four that I picked up at the sale, whenever it was. I can't remember now. Next, I think at the same sale, I think it was a sale at Excalibur Comics. If you live in Portland, great place for back issues. I manage, and when they have sales, they're almost always 50% off sales off the back issues, which gives you very good prices. So I just couldn't resist picking up a whole bunch of these. I suppose they're probably mostly reader copies of The Phantom Stranger. So that says $8 on it. I got it for $4, and it is Phantom Stranger #2. I've only read a teeny bit of Phantom Stranger. I bought some other Phantom Strangers, I don't know, about a year ago or half a year ago, and read a few of them and liked them, so wanted more. I don't know. I think a lot of them are drawn by Jim Aparo, but I don't know what on #2 who it would be. I'm going to open this up, take a look. Yeah, I kind of make these haul videos kind of long by looking at the art so much. I won't do that with every issue of Phantom Stranger. Whoa, okay. I thought that was an ad at first. That art is so clean. I thought it was one of those Twinkies ads. This looks weird. Okay. They have an ad on the bottom third. I can't see yet who the artist is, although I do not think it's Jim Aparo. Maybe there won't be any credits here. The House of Secrets. It's kind of cool art, except not always a lot of background, and maybe the coloring. I don't dig that orange and red. It's rare that I even notice a problem with coloring in old comics. I mean, it was so basic, but here is kind of some unusual color choices, I think. I wonder who that artist was. Looks vaguely familiar. It just looks like from a different era than 1970 or so, when this must have been published. Let's see, 1969. Huh. Okay, so that's #2. And then I snagged #4. Is that Neal Adams? Is that a Neal Adams cover? It looks like it. And way to go, Neal, for putting at least one African American in there, which was probably unusual back then. #8. Okay, I think this is also a Neal Adams cover, and that is pretty intense. I'm gonna look inside this one. There was one that I picked up. Was it Phantom Stranger or some other early not Journey into Mystery, but some other 70s mystery magazine, and I said, I wish Neal Adams were doing the interiors also. And then I opened it up, and he was doing the interiors. Maybe that was a Phantom Stranger. Well, this looks like Jim Aparo. Yep, Jim Aparo. Script by Denny O'Neil, art by Jim Aparo. What I found in the little bit of Phantom Stranger I've read already is that I like Jim Aparo's art a lot in these mystery style stories. I mean, he's most well known for doing Batman, and he's great on there, but I think he had a slightly different feel for these mystery stories that I really liked. Maybe it was earlier in his career, before he did Batman. Maybe his style sort of got more streamlined or smoother. I like the rough edges that you see in these. So that's cool. Then I got Phantom Stranger number 9. Buy so many back issues, it takes me quite a while to sort of digest them and go through. That could be Neal Adams. It also has a Neal Adams-ish look. Neal Adams did way more DC covers than I realized at first. At a guess, I'd say that's a Gray Morrow cover on Phantom Stranger number 9. I don't know. That's just a total wild guess. Could be someone else. But it has that feel that I associate with Gray Morrow. I'll have to look up, there's that website, Mike's Amazing World of Comics, and you can find out who drew all the covers. I wish they signed the covers. There's another one that I have to say must be on Neal Adams. You have been chosen for the army of evil. How could you not read that? Number 11. And number 12. I think it's just Neal Adams after Neal Adams after Neal Adams here. Very exciting. So what would I have paid? I paid $6 whole for that one. Maybe, hopefully it's in better condition than the $4 ones. Neal Adams again. Phantom Stranger number 13. It feels like all these mystery things to me were happening off on the side where I wasn't paying attention as a kid. And now I'm like, how did I not notice all this amazing stuff that was on the newsstands? It may have been that its heyday was, I was so enraptured by Marvel, with the first comics I bought. And I tried one Superman comic and thought it was kind of lame compared to the Marvel. And then I picked up Jack Kirby DC, but I just was not looking in the direction of DC at all. Image in Wax. That is an awesome cover. And I love getting the things from this 48-page for 25-cent period. I don't know why. Well, I do know why. Partially, anyway, because the very first comic book I got was in that oversized period, which then ended immediately. Like a Ghost from the Ashes. Also has to be Neal Adams. Look at the way that hand is drawn. The colors on these, the color schemes are very different, certainly from the Marvel and also from the DC superhero things. It's like a very different colorist worked on these, or someone took a very different tact. This one, number 18, I don't know. I would guess Neal Adams again, but I'm a little more unsure. Though that tentacle, the way it's drawn, makes me think of Neal Adams a lot. This one definitely a Neal Adams-ish one, number 19. Just one look at that face says Neal Adams to me. Very cool. This one has no words on the cover to tantalize us on what's going on, but something horrifying is going on. And I love that storytelling with the hand that is reaching out and has obviously done something to this guy, and these other people are like horrified. And obviously they have been on a long trek through the ice and snow. And there's the Phantom Stranger just poking out in the background. Love it. And number 20. And there ends what I bought at that sale. This is not a Neal Adams cover. I feel like I can tell right away. It's just not as fluid. And it's signed by Jim Aparo. Jim Aparo. It's a nice cover. I like the shadow of the Phantom Stranger there. It takes you a minute on each cover to notice where the Phantom Stranger is, and I like that. Like a little game. Okay, another thing I bought, I'm not sure where I bought this. I might have just got it 25% off at my regular shop because I get everything there 25% off for being such a big subscriber. And it's just really hard to find Vampire Tales, so I only have a few of these. What issue is this? And this is in pretty rough shape. First mind-boggling issue, so number 1. I don't know who that is. Looking at it quickly, Is it Satana or someone? It says this is a Morbius story by Steve Gerber and Pablo Marcos. Not the most standout Pablo Marcos work I've seen at a glance. The Vampire. This I think there was a story by Polidori called The Vampire. Based on the classic tale by John Polidori. Might be the first published vampire story ever. This is art by Winslow Mortimer. I've heard that name, but I don't know who he is. I assume he's an artist who by the 70s was a bit from a previous era. And this is interesting. A Gardner Fox story, Revenge of the Unliving, art by Burnett. I've never heard of Bart Burnett at all. It looks like very good black and white style art. So anyway, I've got to pour through more of this. I think I have one other issue of Vampire Tales. It's a hard one to find, for me anyway, in my local shops. Same with, oh no, this is not the Monsters comic. This is a Marvel preview, Legion of Monsters. So, wasn't there a color comic called Legion of Monsters or something along those lines? Ooh, I immediately open it and I know that's some Mike Ploog art, and I loved Mike Ploog's art in the black and white magazines, most memorably in the Planet of the Apes, but that has me excited for this issue. It looks like we get some Gene Colan doing some Blade, and Gene Colan perhaps, is he inking himself, or someone has done him in a way to show those shades of gray that Colan was so famous for. It just says art by Gene Colan, so I think this is Gene Colan inking himself, which is very unusual, and using a lot of gray washes to give the moodiness of the story. And the script by Marv Wolfman, so that is very good. These Marvel black and white magazines always had to have articles in them. I'm not sure why, whether it was just they felt it was more like a magazine, so it had to have articles, or if there was some postal rules or what have you. And then it looks like another Pablo Marcos Morbius story, actually. At least at first glance, that looks like Pablo Marcos to me. So it may be kind of like Sonny Trinidad. Right. Sonny Trinidad, what do you know? I mostly know Sonny Trinidad as an inker. Okay, well anyway, that's an interesting thing. And finally, my last thing for this video, for this haul, is an all Corbin super special of Eerie magazine. I got this very cheap. They claim it's a giant collector's classic, 8 electrifying stories. They are, I believe, reprints, or almost all reprints. It might be one of those situations where they put in one new story and reprint a whole bunch of Richard Corbin creepy and eerie stories. A great, crazy Richard Corbin cover, kind of dark colors, a lot of dark blues, but it's a whole bunch of monsters together. You got the mummy, the werewolf, some kind of vampire, zombies. I don't even know what this woman is with her mask, but she's the creepiest of all. So I guess, Richard Corbin is not that valued of a artist anymore, but he was a superstar of the stuff outside of Marvel and DC Comics back in the 70s. He started in underground comics in the late 60s, and then moved on to things like Warren Comics and then heavy metal. But now it's hard to find his work, and most of it's not reprinted. And you don't hear people, scrambling to find old issues of except for a few friends of mine, scrambling to find old issues of Richard Corbin art. So I feel very lucky to have gotten this very cheaply. The sticker price was $7, and I think I got 25% off of that. So money doesn't matter, though. Comic books matter. So I will be back again soon. Bye-bye.